This is Tanya Mitchell. I'm with LearningRx. I'm currently the Vice President of Research and Development. By the end of the year or the beginning of next year, I'll be a Chief Research and Recruitment Officer. With me today is Katie Kemp, and she'll be helping answer questions. So if you have any questions, we will have a Q&A time at the end of this webinar. Feel free to chat with her right now, and then we'll make sure that we answer all questions at the end. Like I said, we do have this recorded, so you'll also receive a link to this recording so that you can share it with any of your business partners or financial consultants or spouses or whoever you want to share it with. Just wanted to start by showing you a picture of one of our centers. So this is a wall in one of our centers in Virginia, and you can see that we take great pride in our graduate students. And these were just some of the students that she had at the end of during their graduation seminar. They would put handprints on the wall and then write their favorite improvements alongside their fingers. So just sort of a cool picture that really shows the, shows you how we touch people's lives and what type of a business this is. So LearningRx, we've been franchising now since 2003. We've received numerous awards for fast growth, for stable system, for franchisee satisfaction, for hot new concept, and we recently also received an award from Franchise Rankings as the best education franchise. This was just in the last month. So within the franchise area, people look at our system, the support that we offer, the marketing support, training, etc., and we get very, very high rankings for the business side of it. So today I want to cover just a little background on LearningRx, our learning model, and a quick demonstration of cognitive training. We'll also go over cognitive testing, one-on-one training versus digital. And then we have just a wealth of new research and a client outcomes booklet on over 18,000 clients. And then I'll go over a little bit on the different options we have in training. So I'm Tanya Mitchell. I'm on the left. Katie Kemp. And Katie Kemp does a lot. So we're sort of a two-person team at the home office. You may have also heard from Brittany, who will help lead follow-up. She's in a different state, though. So you'll be dealing with both of us through the process. And our number one goal as a team is to be transparent and to help people through the process with an understanding that we want to make sure that you have all the necessary information to make not only a good decision for yourself, but to make sure you're a good fit for our system, and that you'll be not only successful within our franchising, but also happy. So why do people choose LearningRx? We asked current franchisees why they chose LearningRx, and the number one reason why they chose us was because they wanted to do something more than just a business. They really wanted to change lives, and they wanted to make a difference in their community. And that's what LearningRx does. We change lives through personal one-on-one brain training, and we help people of all ages learn easier, think faster, and perform better. So this is a picture of my father, Dr. Ken Gibson. I am now starting my 21st year working for him out of college, but just give you a little story on who he is. When he was 11 years old, he had volunteered to cut the lawns at his church, and on the way he noticed a lot of lawns needed to be cut. So he started a business at 11, and he went door to door, got a bunch of accounts, and then he hired his 11-year-old friends to be his employees, and they would cut lawns during the summer, and he was the boss. When he was 17, he started a painting business and hired his friends, and they painted 26 homes their first summer. So he was always, and he's done many things throughout his life. He's had a very entrepreneurial spirit. But one of the things that really affected him when he was little was he knew he was really smart, He was so smart that they actually skipped a grade with him, but when he got into the grade, he went into the lowest reading group. So he was very smart, but he had reading difficulties. And I think it created a passion in him to try to help people that struggle to read and struggle to learn. And his father was an optometrist, so he became an optometrist. But right away, he focused in on pediatric optometry, and then he had learning centers. And the learning centers back in the 60s and 70s largely were sensory motor integration programs, which you might have heard of today. You know, there's sensory motor integration is still around. But to affect the learner and reader the way he wanted to, he was not getting the type of results that he wanted. So for the next 10, 15 years, he read through all different types of research, and he started a program based on some of his own methods. He had worked under a sports optometrist and psychologist who had helped the Oregon Trailblazers or the Portland Trailblazers win the championship. And the things that they were doing with the athletes had to do with intensity, loading, and intensity within its time. And at that time, a lot of his training had been group and was mainly sensory motor and vision therapy. So he went back, stopped doing any training for a year, and created a new method. So instead of group, he went to one-on-one training. Instead of instructional training, he went to drill-oriented training. Instead of focusing on one skill, he did something called loading and started getting really good results. And optometrists from all over the country asked him what he was doing. And so he started licensing them in his vision improvement program, which was largely vision therapy and visual processing. And then he also did practice management for them. He had about 300 optometrists by 1995. On the side, he also had 5 kids, and so when his oldest kid was ready for preschool, he couldn't find one that was good enough, so he started his own preschool, and it was one of the first preschools that implemented reading machines and Montessori methods, and was just a very innovative preschool. And when we got to school, he couldn't find schools he liked, so he created private schools. So he's always been, in the cognitive area as well as the educational area. In 1995, new research came out about reading, which had always been a primary goal for him. So he added the research from that, which showed that auditory processing was really important, and I'll show you a learning model in just a minute. And because it had taken vision therapy away, we started licensing psychologists in the 1990s. I joined him in 1995, and we went from 6 licensees in 1995 to 500 by 2000. And that was just by word of mouth as far as the results of the program. And we moved to Colorado Springs in 2000. And then in 2002, we opened a location here to show all of our licensees how to run a business, since we had so much business knowledge and had done well in our own centers. And after the first quarter, we were so successful here in Colorado Springs that we really wanted to offer a full system, not only the programs we had, but also the business support and marketing support. And that's called franchising. So we took the next year to learn about franchising and how to franchise, and we started franchising in 2003. We just celebrated our 95th student earlier this year, 95,000th student this year, and we are offering different ways to be a part of LearningRx, which I'll show you in a minute. By the way, if you haven't read the books, The Purpose-Directed Business or Unlock the Einstein Inside, we have digital online copies that we would love to, we'll send you links after this webinar. And then if you finish the qualification call, we'll send you hard copies of those books. That's a $40 value for talking to us for a couple hours. We currently have about 80 locations around the U.S. We have about 200 licensees, either clinical or individual. And then we're also in about 40 countries now. We have about 70 licensees worldwide. And the blue dots are our masters. So, we're an international program. And as far as I know, we are the best program in the world for training cognitive skills. And I talk to people all over the world, and I talk with people internationally almost every day. So this is a growing need, and we're helping children all over the world and adults. You may have heard about neuroplasticity and brain training in the news. It's a pretty hot topic, especially in the last couple years on brain games. And we would see ourselves not as brain games, but somehow we got looped into the brain game area. But the reason there's so much research on it is brain plasticity, brain training, is a fairly new concept. It wasn't until early 2000 that they were even able to see that the brain could change. So the thought before that was your brain was done growing at a certain age and it didn't change anymore. And that's just not the case. So once they could see that the brain was plastic, or plasticity, just sort of like your muscles, then people started researching how you could affect it. Now, by 2000, we had already been doing cognitive training for over 15 years. So it wasn't new to us. We were just happy people were catching up. But this is a hot topic. The likelihood of getting coverage in the media is very high. There's still a lot of unknowns about what brain training is. And so people are curious. They want to know about brain training. They obviously want to have a good brain until they die. And so it will continue to be, it's sort of a unique area, new to just the general public, and a lot of coverage in the area. And this is just a look at sort of the market. So outside of brain training, what's going to happen within the market of cognitive enhancement or brain training. And these are just two market watchers. So Forbes magazine feels that cognitive enhancement is likely to be the next trillion-dollar industry. And then here's a quote from Markets and Market.com. So this is LearningRx in pictures. Just to give you an idea, again, of some of the cool facts about LearningRx. So our goal, especially when someone first starts with us, is to look at their 7 core cognitive skills and develop and improve the skills that are weak. We can work from anyone to from 4 to 94 or 95. I think we're 94. Whenever they come in. Our training, one of the unique parts of our training is it always includes one-on-one training. So there's always a component of it where they're sitting across from the table, they have their own personal trainer, and that's a very important and key part of cognitive training. And to date, we've changed over 95,000 lives through brain training. Our programs are built on 35 years of research or plus. We currently have or have completed over 20 research studies, and that's sort of a new area for us as far as being able to get into a lot of independent research. And on our last randomized controlled trial, which is important, it's now a requirement within the brain training industry to have randomized controlled studies. But on our last one, which was recently published in Applied Cognitive Psychology, we had a 21-point increase in IQ compared to the group. And that actually takes you from low normal or low average to superior intelligence in our group. So it's a very impressive result. This just gives you a look at our training. So you can see you're sitting across from the table. There's a metronome there, a stopwatch to help with intensity, and it looks like they're doing a logic procedure. So we have over 200 different procedures that focus on those different core cognitive skills, and I'm developing those skills. Brain training is not brain games. And I did mention to you, somehow we got looped into those, but we're very, very different. And this is actually this is an independent study that looked at one-on-one training versus digital training. And we have some now, we'll be publishing some very cool MRI scans on this study that look at what happened to the brain during one-on-one training. But you can see digital training, which is sort of like that brain game piece. Digital training alone doesn't get a very good result, where one-on-one training does get a good result. We also have mixed this training, so we've done one-on-one training and digital training together, and that worked really well. So the key component is that you do not just do digital alone. And I think it's probably a lot like weight loss. So if you want to lose weight and you purchased a DVD, of aerobic exercise, the likelihood is, one, you probably won't do the required amount of time. You probably won't push yourself unless, especially, if you want your kid to get maybe you want your child to get healthy, and so you buy them a DVD and you say, I want you to do this every day. And they'd have to push themselves at a higher level than what they were doing, so they'd have to have a lot of internal drive, compared to having a personal trainer show up and encourage them and push them through times when they don't want to continue, and help them succeed. If you just logically think about it, it makes a lot of sense. So brain training versus tutoring, this is still a question we get once in a while, not even as close as what we got 5 years ago. So brain training was still a very new idea, but where tutoring teaches subjects and knowledge, when we deal with even the reader that has difficulty, we're going to find out what cognitive skills are weak, why they had difficulty learning to read in the first place, and then once those skills are developed in place, then we're going to give them our reading program, which is an excellent reading program. Tutoring, unknown results, very few studies on that show that tutoring actually improves academics. We have a new client outcomes booklet that looks at 18,000 clients, and it also includes achievement scores and surveys from parents. Tutoring competes with schools. We're here to create the prepared learner, to create the student that can learn in any environment from any teacher, which teachers love, by the way. Tutoring would be a small group. It would be mainly school-aged. Brain training is a large demographic, so about 70% of our clients are still school-aged, but that's 30% that aren't. And I'm going to show you, some of the groups that we've started to work with. If you want to look at those subgroups and the outcomes, you can look at our client outcomes booklet. But it includes adults, brain injury, seniors, stroke victims. We're working with a large group of people. Tutoring still has lots of competition. Brain training has more and more competition, but it's more in that brain game area, not real brain training. And so I wanted to start out with this slide. I actually added this slide this morning. This is a slide that we have in a webinar called the 7 Key Ingredients to Effective Brain Training. And one of the difficulties of brain training is that you don't necessarily have pre and post pictures like this, before and afters. So if I had a physical exercise program and I showed you the top left slide, that would be pretty impressive. You'd say, wow, that there's a good before and after. And you can see the girl went from crooked teeth to straight teeth. The bottom right one is sort of interesting. This is a lady who obviously had I don't know if is that called scoliosis? If they have a curved back. She went from that, did yoga, and then look at her back now. That's pretty impressive. What's interesting is when you look at brain injury, the brain injury that I have on the bottom left, that actually is one of our clients. Not that he came to us in a wheelchair, in the first picture, the before, but that picture is how he left his rehab program. So that's how he left his rehab program. And he didn't go through our training till, I believe, like 3 or 4 years later. And he came to us at a first grade level. His story you can read at Vital Connections. We have a book called Vital Connections, and it's a powerful story. And he was a student of the year, so you know, it's a pretty big story. But one of the other things that I wanted to show you with these pictures is sometimes people think brain training is a tool or it's knowledge. You know, like you could go to a class for a couple hours and your kid could have some extra knowledge, and then all of a sudden, you know, everything changes for them. But when we look at these pictures, we know just by looking at these pictures that this took hours and hours of training over months, maybe years for some people, that this is not an overnight type of activity. This is not a miracle pill. All of these were done through hard work. And so our training is not miraculous. It's hard work. It's hard work, but the end product is an incredible result for our students. So this is our learning model, and this takes those 7 core cognitive skills, which is attention, working memory, processing speed, logic and reasoning, auditory processing, long-term memory, and visual processing. By the way, if I want to test someone's IQ, their intelligence quotient, then I would test these areas, and then through some type of composite score, that's how you generate an IQ score. So, you know, one of the questions out there is, well, you know, one of the most controversial studies is that someone did a certain type of training for 8 or 10 hours, and then they saw that their fluid intelligence went up 8 points. That would just be one of these skills. So when we say that we, you know, on that study we had a 21-point increase overall with all of our clients, we have a 15-point average increase in IQ. It's because we're working on all these areas. This is not, you know, sort of a small area. We're working across the board in every area, and it is very impactful on their life. So just to give you an idea, I'll give you a task, and we'll go through the learning model here. So if I said, I want you to spell my first name and last name back forwards as quickly as you could, and let's just say you do your own name. I'm gonna, so do that as fast as you can. Start now. Tanyamithchell. Or are you on, Katie? No. Okay. So Katie usually helps me with this, but because I had to change my microphone, I'm doing it myself. So you had to attend to what I asked. You had to use your processing speed. I asked you to do it as fast as you could. I gave you the task, which was to spell your first and last name as, you know, fast. You had to use your working memory and decide, is this something that is new to me or known? And that would be a fairly known activity. So you go straight to your knowledge bank and then output it. So let me give you another task, and that is, I would like you to spell, I won't use the president-elect. We'll stay off of that. I'm going to have you spell the first president of the United States last name, but I want you to spell it backwards as fast as you can. So the first president's last name backwards as fast as you can. Ready, get set, go. So it's NotgniHsaw. Okay, so you had to attend to the task. I asked you to do it quickly. Now I've been doing this a long time. I have fairly good skills, and now I believe that task is other places. But a lot of you would have had to use your working memory. Thought part of this is known, so I use my knowledge bank. I know it's Washington, but I have never spelled it backwards. So now you have to go up, use your logic and reasoning, and think, how am I going to do this? Most of us will use our visual processing, and even I use that, so I'm visualizing the word and then I'm spelling it backwards, and then you're using your long-term memory to come up with the correct letters. Some of us will use a little bit of auditory processing, maybe try to remember what the sound is in between there, but that's sort of a higher thinking activity. So no matter what we're doing in our life, whether it be driving, sports, hiking, having conversations with friends at a party, eating, whatever we're doing, we're using cognitive skills. And depending upon the task, certain skills are more important than others. And so most of us will pick professions and jobs based on which skills are the strongest or which things are the easiest for us. So if you do have some weak skills, that does affect what you're going to do in the future, or sometimes what you're not going to do in the future, many times. So like I mentioned before, it's very one-on-one, very feedback-based, and it's very sequenced. Our trainers, we can train our trainers through, they start it with the LearningRx University, and within 20 hours, 20 to 30 hours of online training, a couple days of in-house training, and then some observation. That's 20 to 30 hours. They are ready to take on their first students. We require a bachelor's degree in the US for our trainers, but it really has to do with their own cognitive skills. So just like if I went to a gym and my personal trainer showed up and they were overweight, maybe had a bad diet, and just told me, get on the bike, I'd be like, I don't want to get on the bike. Even if they had a PhD in, physical fitness training, we need someone that is cognitively fit in cognitive training. So we teach you how to find those people as well through, we'll do some different tasks with them. We get really good trainers, and the trainers love what they do. A lot of them do have education background or psychology background, but that is not what makes a good trainer. It's more the filtering process that we have. So this is just one of our exercises that we do. As I mentioned, we have about 200 procedures. We have 6 programs now. But to give you an idea of loading, and I have a metronome on, you can probably hear that. Let's do just a couple tasks. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do arrows, and do this out loud. What I want you to do is sort of feel what's going on, okay? So we're going to do 3 rows, and we're just going to do the direction of the arrow on every other beat. So ready, go. Right, up, right, down, up, right, down, down. Whoop, left, left, down, down, up, left, left, up, left, left, right, up, down, right, left, up, left, right, up, down, right, left, right, down. Okay, so that is, there's several things happening in that procedure. One, I have a metronome, so you have to go the speed that I want you to go. Which can create a little bit of intensity for the person. Also, because I'm having you do it every second, that does not allow you as a student to have mental breaks. So it's one of the ways that we develop attention skills. Then I'm having you deal with the orientation of an arrow, which is visual processing. And so you're doing all of that at the same time. So now we're going to do one other activity. We'll just do 2, and I had you do it for 3 rows. So you had to be able to stay on task for a much longer period of time than maybe what is comfortable for a lot of people. Okay, so we're going to do the same. We're going to go on beat, but this time we're going to turn the arrows a quarter turn clockwise. So instead of saying right for the top left one, we would say down. And instead of saying up for the second one, we would say right, okay? So let's see if you can follow along. Ready, go. Down, right, down, left, right, down, up, left, left, right, up, right, up, up, down, right, left, down, up, right. Okay, so how many of you stayed on task? Katie stayed on task. We share an office. Um, so even if you goofed up, uh, hopefully, I mean, even now, I just feel just a little bit going on in my head. And that's because I have a required task to do. And so all of our procedures have some intensity, some component of loading. It's just like a really good physical exercise, like a really good push-up or sit-up, but working the different parts of your brain or your skills versus different parts of your body. And we do have some more demonstrative videos that we can share with you, or maybe that you would see in a video. So I talked a little bit about what loading was, and the key to that is that if we're working visual memory, and now not only are they doing a visual memory task, but they're having to count on beat, they're having to stay on, stay on task, no mental breaks, and then we add cards and maybe spaces. They're doing 5 or 6 things at once. So when you take those things away, then their skill becomes more automatic and quicker. We're very targeted to what the student has difficulty with, so it is very catered to the individual student, and it's largely non-academic until we get more into the educational programs we have. So ThinkRx is our core cognitive program. We also have ReadRx, which is based on a $200 million federal study on why people fail to read. That's a sound to code based reading program. And if you look at the results in our client outcomes booklet, I've never seen like that those types of results from any other reading program. So the 2 key components that we were really focused on developing and getting good results with, as far as I know, are the best in the world. We do have MathRx, and you can see results in that. And then a new program we have is ComprehendRx, which after they're done with ReadRx, it applies it more to academics. And that's all of our programs are completely based on research and what works. And then our goal is to measure results and take in feedback until we get a really great program and a really great result for our customer. And that's sort of how we work. Liftoff is our preschool program, and it's a really great start for students. A lot of times when students have difficulty in kindergarten, the parents' options have been just to retain the child. And I think Liftoff has been a great way for them to get help and maybe not have to have that option. Maybe they get other options. So if we could change the world, as I would like to do sometime in the future, it would be through preschool. And so it's sort of a near dear to my heart program. If you want to see more about brain research, we also have a website called LearningRx.org, and that is just all the current research on the brain. So it's not just our research. In fact, most of it is other research going on. So we stay really close to brain research just to get an idea of what's going on and to make sure, hopefully in the future, we'll be a part of more of it. We also started the Gibson Institute of Cognitive Research back in 2014, and Dr. Amy Moore is one of the people that helped with our client outcomes booklet, but we also had independent reviewers like Dr. Howard Weiner, who's a world-renowned statistical genius. He has the title of Distinguished Research Scientist, and he was also on the National Board of Medical Examiners. So we have some really big people that are helping watch over this industry and watch over our programs to make sure that we're the best we can be and that we're able to share these results. So, and one of the great things about being in a system like this system, a franchise system, is that even if you're just a startup, you have access to this incredible group of people, and you get to work with top people from all over the world. This is just the book that I mentioned. And so I'll send you a link. It's a really interesting read, and anyone who wants to be part of our system should definitely go through all of this material. This just shows you that in that randomized control trial, they started at, I believe, 103, and they went to 125 or 124. So that took them from average to superior intelligence, and that was in 60 hours of training. And this is based on the Woodcock-Johnson. So last weekend, Dr. Christina Ledbetter, who is a neuroscientist and participated in an independent study that I mentioned earlier, presented this type of data. So this is just one piece of it. But one of the cool things that she showed was, number one, our training did make physical changes in the brain for the students that were part of the study. And two things happened. The red dots, or the red lines, are where new connections were formed. So physically there were new connections formed, and then the blue lines, or blue dot, is where efficiencies happen. So almost like a refinement. And I'm going to stop talking there because I'm not a neuroscientist, and I don't want to say anything incorrectly, but that is what she presented to us, and that was just presented at the Society for Neuroscience this last weekend. But she's very excited to do more studies with us, and she was able to correlate the physical changes in the brain to our cognitive test results, which is really apparently cool to researchers, to be able to connect those two. So the greater change that we had on our cognitive testing, the greater change in the brain. That's pretty exciting stuff. Here's just more of her slides. This is a great graph, and what I just want to show with this is that these are our clients, age 5 to over 60 years old. And one of the questions you hear, or one of the myths that you hear about the brain, is that it's pretty much formed at like age 17, which maybe organically that's how it works. But you can see that our 60 plus group actually had the biggest change on cognitive skills. So what this shows to me, my opinion, my take on this is that it doesn't matter what age you are. You can still make improvement. And I think we know that. We logically understand that when it comes to, physical training, that even if you had an 80-year-old come in and go through some physical fitness training, that could be very beneficial to them, and it could make change. Your body is changeable until the day you die, so is your brain. We have literally thousands of testimonials from people, and one of the things that we do at the end of the training is we'll have them fill out a survey, and one of the questions they fill out is, on a scale of 0 to 10, how likely are you to refer your friends or family to LearningRx? And out of 22,000 completed client surveys, we average a 9.6 in client satisfaction. And I dare you to find a company with such strong client satisfaction. I have not seen this before. So, just to give a handout to all of our franchisees that worked with all these clients, we are an award-winning business as far as this book is concerned, The Ultimate Question, and our scores are above scores like Apple, American Express, Southwest Airlines, which are considered promoter stars. And the quote from his book is that leaders will outgrow their competitors in most industries by an average of 2.5 times. So hopefully that growth is in the near future for us. I just wanted to give you a quick picture of some of our franchisees, really to show you that we're all different. And they all come with different backgrounds. So we have physical therapists, we have a president of a large corporation, we have a lawyer, a marketer, a stay-at-home mom, and a psychologist and an audiologist, all within this group. And it doesn't really matter to some degree what your background is. We do want you to have a bachelor's degree just because of what we do. Um, but people come from all different walks of life. A lot of them come with no business experience at all, even though that's very helpful, of course. One of the great blessings, I guess, of a franchise is that you do get a full business system. So in the areas that you might feel weakest in, or you may have the greatest concerns in, we have training for those areas, and we can point you in the right direction. So we have trainings. We do several on-sites with our franchisees. During the first year, you get a business coach. We train you in marketing, public relations, and then we also have a full intranet system that helps you look at analyze your business, your numbers, and make sure that you have cash flow and all those things that are important to a business. These are just some of our marketing pieces over the last year. We've had to redo a lot of our marketing to get in line with regulations. But we have direct mail pieces, radio, TV commercials, marketing tools. We do a lot of networking. We're at over a 35% referral rate, and we go talk with the doctors, teachers within your community. You bring them that published research we have and the client outcomes booklet we have, and a lot of times they'll send you one student to see what you can do, and then they become evangelists for you. They're so happy with the result of that one client that they'll refer many more clients to you. This gives you a look at one of our center's waiting areas and lounge areas, and then the outside. Our centers could be within a strip mall, or it could be within a professional building, so you have that option. You are looking for a space anywhere from 12 to 1,800 square feet. We are implementing a computer lab into our centers right now, and that's just because the study that I showed you, the control group from that study, went through LearningRx, which is our international program, a combination of one-on-one and our digital training, and they got the same type of results. So we are implementing the Brain Lab into all of our centers. And then you'll want anywhere from 10 to 14 training areas. Some of those training areas could also be testing areas, a director's room. So a pretty easy setup, not a huge build out. And sometimes you're even able to fit into spaces, maybe an insurance brokerage that moved, or real estate. Some of them, some of our centers moved into a real estate area where they just had to paint some walls, maybe redo some carpeting, but it's not a big build out or upfront fee. This just gives you a look at some of the training. You can see the bottom one, that's a very active center. You would think this is noisy, and it is, but one of our goals with students is to not be easily distracted. So if our students come in and they have a hard time dealing with noise, then one of our goals is to put them in this environment so that they can train in this environment. Our goal is to make a learner that can learn many different ways and in many different environments. I had talked a little bit about networking. It's a big part of what we do. We do really well at trade shows or events. We do a lot of professional presentations, of which, of course, we give you those PowerPoints. Lunch and Learns, which is sort of like, almost pharmaceutical sales, but we're going in there with our training and our research, and trade shows work well. We can do business networking initiatives. We also have, a Feel Your Brain at Work presentation that you could do for seniors groups, moms groups, teachers. So we have just a wealth of education that we can give to people that helps support what we're doing. So that's a lot about us. Who are we looking for? And we have all different types of franchisees. So we have franchisees in large metro areas that spend tons of money on marketing and have very high sales. And then we also have micro franchises in maybe a city of 40,000 where they're just doing it part-time. So revenues are all different. Obviously, if you're working part-time and just have a couple students, that's going to be different than having, 100 students. Um, so, and what I've learned, which is a little bit difficult because I'm a high D personality, so, revenue seems like it's very important to me, but lifestyle is very important to a lot of our franchisees. So this is sort of a look at, who the top revenue people are. But if you're one of those people that lives in a small city and wants to do something and maybe just have a few employees, this opportunity can work in that environment as well. So for franchising, top performers, they love to win, so they have that high drive personality. I think people choose us because they want to make a difference. Our slogan is change lives for a living, and that resonates with them. They're very persuasive people. They're very decisive. They go with their gut. Um, if they were to do any type of sales, they probably would do above average sales. They enjoy consulting with parents. So a lot of our top performers will tell us that their favorite activity is sitting down with parents in a consultation. They enjoy working with people, and franchising, any new start of a business has risk to it. So, but our top performers are risk takers. They'll try different marketing, different marketing types that are very innovative. They try a lot of things, and even though some things don't work well, they'll risk it, and then they'll find those things that do work well. So I'd like to offer you a free disc profile. That's something that we invest in our candidates. So after the introduction call, Katie sends you a disc, and it's about a $40 gift to you to get this disc, and it's a work profile. So it looks at these different areas, but it also gives you an idea of how best to work with people. And we've been profiling people for the last 7 to 8 years, and it's been really helpful. Not everyone is a high DI, and that doesn't mean that you won't be successful, especially depending upon what your goals are, but also who you should hire, and when you work with people, how to read the people you work with, how to if you have goals, how to get to that end goal that you're after. And so after your intro call, then we'll invest the money to have this profile done, and then after the qualification call, we'll send you those hard copy books. So a little giving back to our candidates. And here's those books: The Purpose-Directed Business, Unlock the Einstein Inside, and as I mentioned before, we also have a book called Vital Connections, and I'll have Katie send you the digital link on that as well. So this is just a little bit on our franchise process. You start with an introduction. That's just a really get to know you call, and Katie does most of those calls, just learns a little bit about what you're looking for, gets your information, maybe ask you some questions that it'd be good to ask you, or maybe you haven't considered. And then you go to qualification call. That would be with me. We go over those DISC results, and we look at financials. So if you have any questions on how you would finance, or how franchisees have financed in the past, or maybe you have some money but you still want to look into financing, I can help you with that. If those calls go well, and then we also talk to you about our vision and goals for the next year. So we've invested a lot of money and time into research and PR and marketing, but we'll talk a little bit more about what our vision is, not only in the US, but our global vision. If that goes well, then we will send you the franchise disclosure document, which is about a 200-page document, and go through that information. And then we will introduce you to the franchisees that you would like to meet. So if there's a franchisee within your community that you want to go speak with, or if you want to talk with different franchisees, maybe you want to talk to someone that's been doing this for many years, or someone who just started, or someone with a similar background or profile, or maybe they live in a small town. So we can help point those out to you and then introduce you to those franchisees. And then we have Discovery Day here in Colorado Springs. We have about 5 to 6 Discovery Days scheduled per year. And then we also are developing a digital Discovery Day. So If for some reason you are not able to physically be here, then we have another option for you. And then training, and we want people, the discovery day is part of your approval process, and it's also for you to approve us. So you want to know who you're working with, you want to know who's at the top, who's running this thing, and get to know us and make sure that you philosophically agree with how we want to run a franchise, and who carries which responsibility. And then we have, how many trainings do we have next year? We have 3 trainings next year for franchising, or the clinical license, and internationally it's different too. So if you're an international candidate, we have other LearningRx trainings, which I can talk to you about later. But before the training, you want about a month of time before the training to do job shadowing and 20 to 30 hours of online training before you actually come to training. So we're trainers, and by nature that means really good training, but a lot of it. So let me just open myself up to questions. And let me see if we have some questions here. So one person wants to know what the average case size is. So how much do we get by client? And I think the average case size, this is in the franchise information kit and the franchise disclosure document, I think it's around 7,000 right now. Sometimes therapies, if you talk about a therapy or like speech therapy, they'll see someone maybe once a week for 3 years or 4 years, whatever it is. And what we want to do is we want to get them the result right away. So they instead of being with us for 3 years, they might be with us for six or 7 months, but they're getting the same amount of hours. So I think it's 7,000. Our franchisees are able to choose their own fees, what they're going to charge. Obviously, if you're in a metro area with other franchisees, that will have impact on what you can charge. But I think the average session is about 85 an hour, which is not, outside of what a personal trainer would charge. Are these individual clients on the bar graph? For these individual clients on the bar graph. Let me do this for the person that had questions on the results. If you could go through the client outcomes booklet, and then we can go through that together and sort of discuss the graphs together. So if you look at the client outcomes booklet, we'll have groups. So we have over 5,400 clients that had been previously diagnosed with ADHD. We have our autism. We have speech and language problems, learning disabilities, dyslexia, brain injury, seniors, seniors that had memory loss. So we have all those subgroups, and then we also have research abstracts that look at how this affected people in real life, how it affected their academics. So all of that's in the client outcomes booklet, and it's just a wealth of knowledge. I'm happy to discuss that with you. So the performer profile that we developed for LearningRx was developed. We worked with a guy named Bill Wagner, who wrote a book called The Entrepreneur Next Door, and he used a disc, or he used a McQuaig, which is like a disc. So, but he profiled, I believe, like 1,500 CEOs and some of the larger franchisees within systems, the most successful as far as revenue within systems. And so we went through his training, and that's when we started using the disc. So we just use the disc. Myers-Briggs, I would say it's, I don't have all of that, but we weren't able to find as much of a correlation with that than the disc. What I would say is any service business that you're interested in, if it's a service business, it's a people business, which means that you're going to be out there doing presentations, doing sales, doing networking. You're going to get, some gates closed. You're going to have to figure out how to go through the gatekeeper. You're going to be attending networking events where you have to put yourself out there. So if someone is extroverted, it's going to be a lot easier for them because it will come natural to them, you know. And if someone is very technical, that doesn't mean they can't be a franchisee, because a lot of our professionals, so people that are psychologists or speech therapists, we have lawyers, their accuracy, or doctors, accuracy is so important that a lot of times they have more of that analytical personality. That doesn't mean they can't be a franchisee. It just means it's probably going to take more energy for them. And they have to realize that, realize that you're really investing in a people business where you have to go around and sell. Um, and events that we visit. So nationally, we will attend several events a year, and part of that is public relations. So for instance, this last year we attended a neurology convention, and we attended a psychological convention. And then, like I mentioned, our research director was just at the Society for Neuroscience. So while we're there, part of it is looking for licensees or franchisees. And part of it is giving out our materials and research, so that if there's a professional in, a protected area, that they understand the benefits of brain training. Good. So let me just pause for a second, see if there's any other questions here. Okay, and it's okay if you have questions after this. It would be great to hear from you. Um, hopefully you feel you can see that we're both going to be pretty transparent about our programs and what we do. And hopefully we'll talk to you very soon in the future. If I don't hear from you before next week, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We're all so blessed, to be in this country. So I just did a international summit in Dubai, and I love other countries. I love going there, but I love America. So happy Thanksgiving, and hope to talk to you soon. Bye-bye.